Hi everybody, welcome back to Tuesday Tips for Leaders of Volunteers. I'm your host Dana, and this week we are talking about time management. Now, as leaders of volunteers, we are very often a department of one, meaning that we're spinning all of the plates full of all of the tasks and the projects all at the same time, and there isn't always a good amount of resources supporting the work that we have. So these Tuesday tips are not about pushing yourself harder and just trying to squeeze more out. Quite the opposite. I want all of us to have recharge moments, rest, reset, prioritize work-life balance, and work smarter instead of constantly feeling like we're on a treadmill working harder and just getting really, really burned out and worn down. So in all of sectors, not just nonprofit, there's something called the 4 Ds: do, delegate, delay, or delete. That is a way of kind of prioritizing your tasks or project or work, and really doing that as a list of what's the highest priority that must be done with the closest deadlines, and kind of getting those accomplished first. What can be taken off of all those spinning work plates and be handled by a different person, a volunteer, someone else on your team? What can you delegate to people, or do a little bit of pre-production work, front-end work to, hand that off and maybe empower a different team member to lead that task or that project for you. And then sometimes the hardest things to choose of the 4 Ds are what gets delayed and what do you delete. So it's not always such an easy choice with so many things vying for our work attention all the time. But really think about what's delayed because you genuinely do not have the resources for it, like there isn't the right kind of skill or experience on the team and it has to be delayed. What's being delayed because there just isn't time to get to it. If that's the case, maybe move it to the delegate column. And what should never have been part of all the plates that you're spinning at all? Like, what can you delete, or what just is not going to make a difference one way or the other? Now, something that I used to do that I don't do anymore is I used to delete my recharge and rest time. I used to take care of everybody except myself in my job, especially over the years. And that doesn't work so well in the long run. That can lead to a lot of problems, a lot of burnout, both for you individually, but also it sets a model that people's well-being doesn't matter for the rest of your team. So being a good leader includes modeling when to recharge, when to rest, when to take a break during the workday, whether that's 5 minutes every hour or during lunch, getting some fresh air, some movement, such as you are able. And also in that work-life balance, that there's genuinely a cutoff time of your work, that you're not constantly checking email or doing work after hours. That's a boundary that's harder to enforce, but much more necessary to enforce, with many of us still working remotely or working from home and not being back in the office, of kind of turning off and drawing that line in the sand where I'm not going to do any work after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. or whatever you communicate to your team. Now, in the 4 Ds, it's also, there's a few variations on the 4 Ds. I'll put it that way. And I'll put some other links and some resources in the video description below so you can dig deeper if you want to. But the idea of the 4 Ds is that whatever time frame works for you is what you're kind of triaging or prioritizing for that day. And it will change, and it should change. But if you notice that something is constantly delayed, or deleted, then record that information. There's a lot of apps that do task and time tracking, things like that. There's easy free little apps, there's little devices. Your phone might have an app built into it already, your smartphone. But if you can actually write out and prove where your time is going and when you don't have any more bandwidth to take on additional projects. That's really important for the rest of the agency. Ideally, you're at a director level and you can help make budgetary decisions, but if you're having to kind of answer up the food chain, I've got some other videos on managing up if you want to check those out, but as you're managing up, really showing where your time and resources are going can make the case for getting more backfill, more hires, more headcount, being allowed to delegate to volunteers certain tasks if that's a barrier to you getting things done. So really kind of track and document the way that you're working, not just to show, hey, I'm working really efficiently and I'm modeling recharging and resting when I need to and taking a day off when I need to, but also that if you're constantly asked to do more and more and more with less, that there's a certain point where you have to push back and say, nope, something's got to give. Something can't get done if you're adding this new project in. And sometimes it really takes that pushback and that shockwave up to a leadership team to realize, oh, we really do have to invest more in our volunteer services. So I hope you've enjoyed the Tuesday tips, even with a slightly scratchy voice from me today and a couple of crickets out in the yard. And we'll see you next time.